Is there such a thing as auto include cards in Marvel Champions? That's what I've been wondering recently, and I've been trying to think about it a bunch. And I think there is to a point, but I think we also need to define our terms, right? Because some people might say auto include means it has to be included in every single deck that you would ever play at any time. And obviously that's not true. You can go out of your way to not play certain cards, right? You can make sure not to use certain cards. There also are heroes that don't use sets of cards that other heroes would use. For example, Spider doesn't use doubles, right? So if you think about the doubles that are generally used, such as Genius, right? This would be added, or Genius, Strength, and Energy, whatever the other one is, right? The three doubles. Um, Spider, generally speaking, wouldn't use all the doubles, right? Hulk would probably only use Strength, right? Is that what that double is called? Strength. Um, he has limitless strength, but probably would only use strength in itself, right? So I feel like there has to be some kind of guideline in the term auto include. So it's going to be a rough definition that we're using, and maybe it's gonna be different than yours, but I think this will be a fun exercise in general. So for me, what I want to consider auto include is what you would use 90% of the time, right? 90% of your time when you're just building an average deck. And this is where things get more complicated, because now and again, if you were thinking about deck building for like a very specific way to beat a villain, you may not include some cards that are other cards, right? And generally speaking, when you talk about auto include, we're not talking about aspect specific, right? So you could break that down even more. I'm thinking about just generally speaking at the highest level, what auto include cards would you use? For me, it's probably the doubles, right? But generally speaking, that's in almost every single deck. Past that, Ironheart tends to be in a lot of my decks. Nick Fury is probably up there, but not in like the 90 plus percentile range. He's probably in the 70s or 80s. And then past that, it starts to break down a bit. And what do I mean that by break down a bit? I think it depends on what kind of trait you're running, really will determine what kind of card you will run at that point. So, for example, you can have a card like Web of Life and Destiny, right? This card is a card I would probably never play outside the Web Warrior trait. But with a Web Warrior, it's probably pushing 90% of the time, right? It's probably become an auto include card again if you're using that definition of 90% or more. Now, are there decks that would not use this card? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. You can, not even that you have to go out of your way to not use this card, but there are decks that like it just doesn't make 100% sense to use this card. Then we have cards like Nowhere if you're running a Guardian type deck. I don't know if it hits auto include at 90%, but it's up there a fair amount, right? That you would use Nowhere a fair amount. I think this is like a step below auto include. I don't know where that would fall exactly, but I think this is a step below that. Now, Def Focus, especially with a lot of the Mystics, especially a lot with the all the X-Men cards so far, Def Focus has slowly become a card that's now auto include, right? If I see a bunch of superpower cards, it's an auto include card that I use all the time. And then this opens up a bigger conversation of, okay, is there auto includes just based off of what type of cards that are in the hero kit or what the traits are, right? Because that could be two different things right there. So I think this becomes a very interesting discussion of what is generally used in most of your decks. And I want to follow this up a little more. And this is going to be a pretty short video in general, because I think this is more of just a discussion topic that I think could be interesting. Are there auto includes for you that are in almost all your decks, right? That you generally run in all of your decks? Are there auto includes where you run in every single trait, like we talked about with Web Warriors? Are there auto includes that you include in pretty much every single deck where, they're superpower cards, for example, with Def Focus, right? Are there auto includes for you if you're running a certain aspect, right? If you run leadership, are you always running Make the Call? If you're running aggression, are you always using the Hulk ally? I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, that's why I want to leave this open discussion up for. I'm really curious about this. That have we gotten to this point in the game? Because for Lord of the Rings, depending on what they're not called aspects, whatever they're called right now. I can't think tonight. But there's certain cards in Lord of the Rings that like Gandalf that you're generally running all the time, right? Arkham Horror kind of has this a bit too. Not, I don't think as bad as Lord of the Rings, but there are generally cards that you look for and you're like, okay, I want to include in most of the decks. I think with Marvel Champions right now, there isn't a ton of them. I do think player side schemes as a whole is going to be an auto include, but I think that's too broad of a topic, right? I think almost every single deck moving forward is probably going to have a player side scheme, maybe two, but maybe not one specific player size scheme, right? Not like that card that you auto include. So anyway, like I said, this is an open debate, not an open debate, but this is an open discussion. I want to hear from you all. What do you auto include into the vast majority of your decks? Do you break it down like I said before? Do you not? What's your opinion on the whole thing? Or do you think, no, there is no such thing as auto include? Every single deck is completely unique and different, because maybe it is. Maybe it is for the way you play. That's not an invalid option either. So let me know down in the comments. I really appreciate it. If you haven't, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, all that fun stuff. See you all next time.